welcome you to the GEEK Studio Show. This is a show about technology, about innovation, about entrepreneurship. And if we go beyond today, now today we have a guest who I'll ask to introduce himself, what he does, so that we take off, we move from there. Welcome to the show.
Thanks very much.
Can you tell us more about yourself, what you're doing, and to the viewers so that they can know?
Thanks, Peter. Yeah. So my name is Moses Sitati. I currently work for an initiative at the United Nations called the Humanitarian Data Exchange. This is an open data platform for sharing data that is relevant to humanitarian crises and emergencies. And the goal is really to try and make this information available and accessible to people who respond to disasters.
Thank you. A very interesting bio. Now, Moses, I'm personally interested in terms of how do I access data. For example, I want to know data about my rural village. I want to know data about livestock. What is your business model like? What is it that, how do you go about all this, about data?
Yeah, so it's a good question. The data has become very, very key and important in today's management of affairs, whether it's in government, organizations, business, and so on. And data is being collected by different means, whether it's on devices that people are using, or whether it's through business processes or businesses that are on the ground, or whether it's NGOs that are out in the field. But the thing is, the sharing of this data, the accessibility of the data, that is where the whole circle starts to break down. And what we're trying to do as the exchange is to enable a conversation to happen between government bodies that are on the ground, between businesses, between NGOs, even individuals, to begin sharing this data. So they might have, an NGO might have done an assessment on poverty in a particular district in Kenya, but that information is on the laptops of the NGO's employees. A business might have operations across the whole country, but they only keep that information to themselves for their own internal decision making. What we're trying to do is to provide a platform where these organizations can link that data and therefore make it accessible for a decision maker, a leader, a technologist, a journalist, to make sense of the information and to get that information and create a story out of it.
Okay, thank you. Now, I realize that under Data Lab initiative, you also do some stuff with the OCHA, that is the UN Humanitarian Data Exchange. Can you just tell viewers a bit, how does UN come into this?
Okay. Yeah, so actually, whenever we have disasters and emergencies at a global level, there is a level at which we have the international community being activated to respond. Now, the way the UN system works is that you have implementing agencies. We've had of agencies like UNHCR that deals with refugees, World Food Program, UNICEF that deals with children, that come to respond and provide supplies and like food and housing to refugees. But that happens usually when another organization has gone in and done an assessment of what the needs are on the ground and what the situation is. So UN OCHA, in full, it stands for Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. UN OCHA is the one that is mandated to go and establish the needs and requirements whenever you have a global crisis or emergency, and then make an appeal for funds, and also appeal to whether it's these UN agencies that I've just mentioned, or even other organizations like the Red Cross, national governments, international NGOs to come and respond to provide food, shelter, housing, etc. So OCHA is the one that is mandated to collect this information, and that is why we have an interest then in collecting this information that we're talking about on the Humanitarian Data Exchange. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Very interesting. I'll request you to take the viewers through. How do you access the data? Because some organizations, they don't just give data like that. Do you buy the data? Do you get it for free? How do you source your data?
We're currently, it's also a good question. And the different initiatives going on in Kenya right now. I think you've heard of the Kenya Open Data Initiative,
yes.
which is on the government side, its own effort to make the government data available. I think for them it's a bit easier because all data that is collected by the government is using public funds and they are mandated to share it. For us, we know organizations have spent money doing large surveys and assessments across the whole country. Businesses have, this data is valuable for their own it's like intellectual property.
Yes, yes, yes.
So what we are starting with right now actually is to find data that is already publicly shared. That is the first level of conversation that we want to have. We're saying to organizations there is greater value when you share this particular results from this particular assessment with the wider community, because you know what, there's another organization somewhere that might benefit from you releasing your information. Case in point, when we have a situation happening on the ground, we have different responders, as I mentioned, who are interested in going to serve the needs that have just come up. Mm-hmm. But what tends to happen is you might have 3, 4, 5, 6 organizations all rushing to this one community to carry out surveys and assessments, talking to the same community members over and over again, asking them, what their needs are, how many people have been affected, and so on. And this wastage of resources could be eliminated simply by, one partner who has already been on the ground releasing some baseline data that they already had about a particular situation. Okay. So one of the first things is just appealing to the greater value of data sharing. Second is we try to provide additional services to anyone who shares data with us. Mm-hmm. We provide free analytics and analysis. We do visualization, which is a really good way of consuming data as well, on data that has been provided. And then we also offer, we don't charge to host any data, so it's a free repository. And we can also do things like offering training to the partners who are sharing data in information management and so on.
Thank you. Now, Moses, in my communication with you when I was invited to the show, you sent me, there's a link that you shared. Can you just tell the viewers that website, and once they're on that website, how do they access that data, right, so that they can know how to access,
Right, so it's a bit of a long name. The platform name is the Humanitarian Data Exchange. We like to call it HDX. The URL is data.rwlabs.org. And once you go to the site, it's a site we've tried to make very easy to navigate and use and get data from. Any data that has been shared on this site is freely accessible and downloadable. You don't have to register to use it. You can search and filter very easily through various means that we have there. And anyone who is willing, or interested in using the data that we have there, then can simply just go to this site and do a query based on country or organization or location, find data that you're interested in, and download it. Maybe I should add that we try to ensure that the data that we have on the site is data that is structured and tabular. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. For that reason, we don't consider information that is in documents, like Word documents or PDF documents. We don't consider this to be data. What we call data is maybe something that's in an Excel sheet or a CSV, mm-hmm, something that has numbers that is immediately actionable. So I encourage anyone who's watching to go to our site, data.rwlabs.org, mm-hmm, try and search for information by country, by topic, by organization, and see if you get something that's interesting. Okay,
thank you. So Moses, allow me also to ask you, for the interest of the viewers, I'm a university student. I'm doing maybe master's, PhD. How is your data, how can it be relevant to a university student? They're out there now looking at the show, viewing the show. How can it be relevant? Maybe you're doing a thesis on horticulture in terms of population, traffic, all that. Maybe how social benefits of that.
So just because of the, right now we have over 160 organizations sharing data on this site. So we have quite a variety of topics. If you think about what does humanitarian data entail, mm-hmm, it's a wide range of topics. We are interested in data starting from education, poverty, health, nutrition, refugees and IDPs, maternal health and child health. It's quite a wide array of topics. So for a university student, I think for me the first thing I'd say is it's a rich mix or resource for them to be able to start looking for information. But also we're we're interested in research ourselves. So it's possible for us to engage with academia or academics to talk about, the methodological aspects of the data that has been shared on the site, to talk about research questions that we can undertake together with a particular student, and undertake other potential research initiatives together. We are also happy to, to support with data collection. So if there's a topic of interest that a student, would like to look into, or an organization, we're happy to support with the data hunting for that question.
Okay, thank you. Let me move you to a different, maybe to the next level. How do you go about this? Because you cannot just do something for free. How is your revenue streams like? Okay. How do you get your funds to do all these projects? Yes.
Okay, so at this particular point, because OCHA already is mandated to collect data and information. So the platform itself is co-funded by UN OCHA. We have that responsibility to get information coming in and flowing in. For me, here on the ground, that means really trying to put together an ecosystem map of who are the organizations that would have interesting and relevant data for us to share, and for me going out to reach them and get that data. But something that is now coming up is we're looking at collaboration models with private sector. It would be interesting for me to talk with Safaricom, to talk with IBM, to talk with Microsoft about how to use the data that is available on HDX to provide analytics or analysis that is then useful to the wider community. I think for us, because it's a public portal, especially looking at humanitarian issues, we cannot charge for it, but the information is of high value, especially for humanitarian action.
Okay, thank you. I think we'll stop there. We'll go for a break. Hello, viewers. You heard what Moses does at Humanitarian Data Exchange. So before we go to the break, when we come back, we'll take you through how do they handle crises, the Nepal earthquake, the Ebola crisis. How do they collect data in terms of that? Thank you. Hello viewers, welcome back. And in our show today, I have Moses Sitati, the data expert from the Human Data Exchange Lab. Now Moses, welcome back.
Thank you, Peter.
Before we went to the break, we were talking about the work that you did under the Nepal and the Ebola. Maybe we can start with the Nepal. A youth outside there, or a woman outside there, want to know, how is data under the Nepal earthquake relevant to them? I mean, just take us through what is all this about.
Yeah, so actually for Nepal, what happens is, as I was saying, when you have something big like an earthquake happening, you have a lot of people who want to come and help. But the problem is no one knows where to start. You don't know how many people have died, how many people are lost, homes destroyed. And organizations are looking for this information. So for a young person, for me, I can say to them, you can be a provider of this kind of information. We have networks of volunteers. For example, the humanitarian digital volunteers who sign up to provide information to Red Cross and international organizations when a disaster has happened, to provide information about a particular crisis. But sometimes you could be a journalist, you could be a student, you're looking for for information about that crisis to write a story or do a paper. And how we help is we make this information available to you by being on the ground and making that information accessible.
Okay, about Ebola, please.
Ebola, same thing. What we were doing is really collecting information about the deaths, about the reported cases of Ebola. We were we have information about, when people were calling in and talking about cases where, they think a neighbor or someone that is around them has died of Ebola. And again, what we were doing is partnering with NGOs that were on the ground. Are you in Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea? Are you dealing with this situation? How many deaths have you observed? How many cases have you treated? And what we were doing is just collecting, making a map of what the outbreak looked like, so that it's not just something that is abstract out there. People wondering there's Ebola happening, but we're really putting a very clear face on the outbreak. So we had what we're calling a page, a crisis page, where you could clearly track through. We had some really nice visualization, some graphs and charts where you could track when the outbreak happened, how the deaths have been going, the reported cases, the number of people who are responding to the outbreak, so that anyone who's interested in that emergency would be able to have a good picture of it.
Okay. Now, as a young girl or as a young boy out there in primary school and secondary school, maybe he's asking him or herself, now, I'm hearing of Data Lab HDX today. Are there organizations that have been existent that that you can tell the viewers so that maybe they can relate that with what you are doing already? Maybe. Yeah.
I mean, okay, so I think the government would be one of the first places I can point young people to. There's a Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. This is a body that is responsible for collecting information of all kinds in Kenya. Statistics is very important because that's what the government uses to do planning, their budgeting, and knowing how much to invest in which particular country. NGOs as well, and any organization that is working in development also collects a lot of information about the number of people in a particular area, whether they're women, girls, farmers, and then using that information, they know how much investment to put back. So for me, I would say look at any organization that is working in development in your area. Look at the government. The United Nations also is very, very big on data, and because this is how we kind of plan for our economy, our social goals, and how we track our progress towards them.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I don't know, maybe viewers could not have heard, but I am aware of Ushahidi, and Ushahidi really did a lot during the post-election violence. Yes. Now, let me bring you to current. Now, people are talking about, the meteorological department is talking about the El Nino rays that are coming. Do you have an agenda for this? I mean, what can you tell the youth who are our viewers? How can you involve them in this? Maybe if El Nino was to come out today.
Yeah, yes. It's a nice question. Ushahidi is also a map. It's a mapping platform. What they do, they provided a tool for people to report disasters, any incidents whenever you have a crisis happening. That's the Ushahidi platform.
Yes.
But them, they rely on people emailing in, SMSing, calling, and you have a map where the reports are being mapped. And so in that way, you're using the community itself to report about what's happening. Ushahidi, and that just relies on volunteers. Anyone can go to and create an Ushahidi map on their own, and on any topic. It doesn't have to be a crisis or a disaster, and they map their community. For me, you mentioned the El Nino crisis coming. One of the things that one of the ways that youth could be involved is in mapping the communities, because usually when you have, for example, floods happening in an area, when people, let's even the government or NGOs are coming to respond, they don't necessarily know where to go. There are no roads mapped in that particular area. They don't know how the community is laid out. And young people can play a big part by becoming digital mappers of their own communities, There's, let me say, I can point them to a tool or a platform called OpenStreetMap. OpenStreetMap is a community mapping tool. If you look for OpenStreetMap, you can use your own phone, your mobile device, to give more information about the area that you live in. And in the event of a crisis or an emergency, these OpenStreetMaps are the ones that organizations like the UN, the Red Cross, and other big NGOs use when they're coming to respond to an area. So they know how the rivers are flowing, the road networks, where the big community institutions are, and how to go about the response. So I think digital mapping would be a good area to look into.
Overview of OpenStreetMap. To begin, you will log into OpenStreetMap. Once logged in, you will see the map. To the right of the map are the map controls. You can zoom in, zoom out, and view your current location on the map. You can also select between layers, view the map key, share the map, or make comments on a particular section. Pause this video, log in, and take a moment to locate these features of OpenStreetMap. Then return here to learn to search and zoom in and out in OpenStreetMap. Searching OpenStreetMap is easy. On the left side of the screen is a search area. Search for any location in the world that you like. Simply type the location and a new map of the area you selected will appear. For now, you only need to know how to zoom in and zoom out on the map. Use the Zoom In button on the right of the screen and examine the map. You should be able to see the three main elements of the map: points, lines, and areas. Pause this video and take a moment to practice with the Zoom In and Zoom Out buttons, the search field, and the three main elements of the map: points, lines, and areas. Come back to learn how to create points, lines, and areas. How to edit OpenStreetMap. To create points, lines, and areas in OpenStreetMap, click on the drop-down arrow next to the word Edit. The drop-down arrow will give you a few options. Select Edit with ID in Browser Editor. There are several ways to edit and create map data in OpenStreetMap. For now, the ID in Browser Editor is the easiest to use because you will not have to download anything to use it. It simply opens up in your internet browser. After selecting Edit with ID in Browser Editor from the drop-down menu, the ID editor will open. You will be able to create map data by adding points, lines, and areas. Please pause this video now, open the ID in Browser Editor from the drop-down menu, and then come back to continue. At the top of the ID editor are the main controls. You can select which action you'd like to perform: map a point, line, or an area. The buttons to go back, forward, and save are also at the top. By clicking Save after making an edit to OpenStreetMap, your changes go live to the entire world. Please remember to hit Save often. There is also a dialog box to the left of the map. This dialog box is where you will be able to input information about the points, lines, and areas that you map. It's okay if you do not know the name of the place, road, or area. Just marking it on the map so that the data exists is very helpful for others who can add in more detail. Please pause this video for a moment and get familiar with the various buttons in the ID editor. Walkthrough. To the right of the map, there is a Help button. You can click on it at any time to see valuable information and answers to questions that you might have about the ID editor. There is also a walkthrough, which will guide you through the process of editing in OpenStreetMap. You can select the walkthrough as many times as you like. You may have completed the walkthrough in OpenStreetMap when you signed up for an account and logged in the first time. If you haven't already, we recommend that you pause this video and go through the walkthrough. Getting started. Once you complete the walkthrough, the ID editor will still be open. To continue with this video tutorial, you'll need to pick an area to practice mapping in. Any place in the world will work, and you don't have to pick a place you have been to or know well. An area with little existing map data is best, so try practicing in a place that is not a major city or heavily developed area. Of course, you're welcome to practice mapping in an area that you already know. This may be easier for you to start with until you are comfortable mapping. How to map a point in OpenStreetMap. To map a point in the OpenStreetMap ID editor, simply click on the Point button in the top left of the map. It will turn blue to let you know that it's been selected. Then, simply click on a position in the map where there is a building or area that you'd like to define. A node will appear. Also, a dialog box with a series of descriptive options to input will appear to the left of the map. If you know the name of the building or area, or additional details, you can enter them here. When you map areas that you've never been to before, you most likely won't know the names of buildings, roads, and areas. That's okay too. Simply marking points is a huge help. Once you've finished adding details connected to the node, you can close the dialog box by clicking on the X at the top right of it. If you need to edit the node, simply click on it again and the dialog box will open. To delete a node that is incorrect or was created by mistake, click on it. A trash can icon will appear next to it. Click on the trash can and the node will be removed. Remember, if you ever need to step back a few edits, click on the back arrow icon at the top of the editor. You can also step forward a few edits with the forward arrow icon. Remember to save often. Please pause this video and take a moment to practice mapping a point. Return to this video when you are ready to learn how to map a line. How to map a line in OpenStreetMap. Just as you clicked on the point button before, now click on the line button at the top of the ID OpenStreetMap editor. It will also turn blue to let you know that it's been selected. Now click on a position on the map. A dot will appear connected to a line. Click on another point on the map and another dot will appear and the line will connect those 2 points. You can either continue to draw more points to establish the line or double-click on the last point to finish drawing the line. The line will glow red to let you know that it has been created. A dialog box will open up to the left of the map editor. You can specify whether the line is a road, path, river, or any other number of options. You can be very specific or general depending on what you can determine from the satellite imagery. To modify a line that has already been created, simply click on it. The dialog box will open next to the editor along with the trash can icon next to the line. Click Save to make sure your edits are logged into the OpenStreetMap database. Please pause this video and take a moment to practice mapping a line. Return to this video when you are ready to learn to map an area. How to map an area in OpenStreetMap. An area can either be a park, a building, a lake, a forest, or any other number of things. It's up to you to define on the map. Just as with points and lines, click on the Area button at the top of the editor. It will turn blue to let you know that you've selected it. Once you've done that, select the edges of the building or feature you want to define. Just click on the corners and the editor will fill in the space in between. Once you've fully outlined what you want, double-click on the last created point to complete the area. The area will turn red to let you know that it's been created. A dialog box will appear next to the map editor and allow you to label the area you've just defined. There are numerous options and you can be as specific or general as you like, depending on what information you know. Again, it is okay if you don't know the specific name of the area. You can leave this section blank as you will most likely not know the exact names of the areas being mapped. Just label what you can see from the satellite imagery, such as a lake or a building. Also, always remember to hit Save at the top of the editor. Please pause this video and take a moment.
I was talking about OpenStreetMap,
Yes.
which is a community-built map of the whole world. A lot of humanitarian organizations, they rely on these maps when they're responding to a disaster. So what a young person can do if they have a smartphone, for example, or any internet-enabled device, is to go to openstreetmap.org. It's going to load a map. I think if anyone is familiar with Google Maps or similar, it opens a map similar to this, and it's going to zoom into the location where you're loading the map from. But from there, you'll be able to get a menu where you can click Edit on this particular map, and then you start adding points of interest. Mm-hmm. So what happens is, you might be living in an area where I think Nairobi is quite well mapped, but you have other parts of the country where there's nothing really, maybe only one road, and in reality, the truth is there's so much in that particular community. So you can start as you walk, your device is going to be drawing out the route for a particular road. You can map institutions, whether some of the key institutions in the, or the points of interest around where you live. And then these will become accessible on the map so that in the event, people need to come and respond to an emergency around where you live, this data will already have been made accessible by you. So you become, let me say, a volunteer but who is supporting the response efforts.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Very interesting, very interesting. Now, we only have 1 minute. Now, in conclusion, Moses, what can you tell our viewers, the youth out there? How do they get you? Where are you located? How is your presence? Just take them through in conclusion.
Okay, let me say two things. The first one is, I'd say we're looking for a lot of skills from the youth nowadays because data can also be very boring. Data is only useful when someone paints a picture with it. And some of the skills that youth can look into in making data more interesting is data visualization. So drawing interesting insights from a boring Excel sheet or a boring spreadsheet, but learning how to create graphics that will really communicate, how bad a situation on the ground is based on the numbers that are in that spreadsheet. So I'd really encourage young people to look into this area of data visualization and learning how to do that, but also writing stories. I think journalists and doing pieces that are driven by information, that is something else. In terms of accessing us and reaching us, we are on Twitter primarily. The handle is Humdata, HUMDATA, at Humdata. Feel free to send any queries there. If anyone wants to reach me, again, my name is Moses Sitati. My Twitter handle is Mr. Sitati, at Mr. Sitati, MISTER. But yeah, I think they can also email me by all means. My email address is sitati@un.org. I'm happy to come to any organizations or to meet any groups that might be interested in working with data. And we're also usually at the iHub, tech communities like the iHub or the Nairobi Garage, trying to work with software developers who are interested in making applications using open data or doing visualizations as well. Okay. Yes.
Thank you. So Moses, thanks for it. It was a pleasure hosting you today in the Youth TV show, in the GEEK Studio show. Anytime, we welcome you again, and anytime next time.
Thank you so much, Peter.
Okay, thanks a lot.
All right.
Hi viewers. It was a pleasure having Moses around. If you want to follow up on this, you can always contact me on Twitter at Olo Esquire or on the GEEK Studio handle, the GEEK Studio show. Thank you.